Hey guys, it's Elon from Inside Fighting here, and I'm in Toronto visiting family. I'm gonna do some amazing in-person videos over here. I'm sorry, but Toronto's like a hub of martial arts. So the next couple months is gonna be very badass for the channel. But there was something I really wanted to cover today. It's Bagua, and stay tuned. This one's gonna be badass.
Pow pow, inside fighting, yeah, dangerous martial arts. Pow pow, ooh ah.
All right, guys, before I get started, if you want to support the channel, one of the things I would love for you to check out is my collagen company that I started with my buddy Dave. As you guys may or may not know, I suffer from autoimmune disease, lifelong martial artist, and being functional, being strong, being capable is a big part of my identity, and that was almost taken away from me. I always looked for safer ways to get back to doing what I love over surgery, and it's worked tremendously for me. And what led us to this company, this collagen brand. We worked with one of the best labs in America. It's American-made collagen. It's got an incredible amino acid profile. It's got a really low molecular weight, which means it's very bioavailable, and it's functional collagen. People don't realize the importance of collagen for supporting your bones, your joints, and your connective tissue. If you're a martial artist or an athlete and you're not supplementing with collagen, I can honestly say, and I'm not just pitching this, that you are missing out. It will make a huge difference in your maintenance. And if you have an acute injury, it'll help tremendously too. So check it out. It's called nomanlabs.com. We have InsideFighting 50, which is a discount right now. Use it. It gives you 50% off your first order. And honestly, if you're consistent with it, which is a big part of it, you have to take it every day. If you're consistent with it within a couple of months, I have yet to have someone tell me they haven't felt major changes in their body. So check it out. nomanlabs.com. All right. So Bagua, let me give you a little bit of a background in what I've experienced from Bagua. I trained Kuntao Silat, Randall Goodwin, and Bagua was a part of what he taught, an Indonesian variation, and it was very aggressive, very fight oriented. I know people say Bagua is one of the three internal styles, and we can talk about that. It's created by Dong Haishuan. I hope I'm not butchering that name to anyone who can say it properly. I apologize, but it's the best I can do. And they say he was a palace bodyguard and that he used these movements to not only, teach the bodyguards, but then teach tons of people, and Bagua spread. And it's a very unique system. The reason I wanted to talk about Bagua today, and let me even bring up a video in the background just so we can watch some beautiful movement in the meantime. While I talk about it, these are just some of the forms from Bagua. Is because I went on ChatGPT and I'm like, give me one of the martial arts with the most unique movements and body mechanics that you can think of to ChatGPT. And it came back with Sistema, which I agreed with. And it came back with Bagua and also Kalari Payatu. But I've done videos on Sistema. I've done videos on Kalari. So here we have Bagua, which I have a little bit of experience with. I'm not going to say I'm an expert in any way, shape, or form, but I have a major appreciation for this. Right off the bat, something I really feel is important for me to do on this channel is to draw a distinction between combat sports, martial arts, and combatives. They're three different worlds. Sure, they overlap. Sure, they meet at some points, but they're distinct from each other and their purpose is distinct. You have to look at the context of Bagua as to what it was created for, when it was created, and what the movements might actually mean. These are, number one, very beautiful movements. Now, one of the primary things about Bagua is that it has nonstop circular walking. So if you look at Bagua in terms of its movement, in terms of how it approaches things, they don't believe in actual like linear movement. Everything tends to be circular and going behind the person. Bagua is a very sneaky system in the sense that it actually is hiding itself through striking when it's really a grappling system. I've noticed this is true for a lot of Kung Fu styles, Chinese martial arts, is that the overlap. And you see look at the circular movement here, how beautiful that is. You guys see that? Let's just go back because I think that's important. This is like the primary distinctive factor of Bagua. Look at how he's turning in place. He actually doesn't move. It's the only system I've really seen that has this kind of footwork, and it's always about going behind the person. So yes, there's striking in Bagua, but Bagua hides a lot of grappling and a lot of body mechanics. Now, what you'll find in Bagua's primary ways of generating force is a coiling kind of energy. The spine collapses, and then with one movement, it explodes out. Again, this is pretty distinct to a lot of Chinese systems. It's something that, and you see him doing it right here, actually. He's coiling, and then he's exploding out. And that's what generates that immense force, not just for striking, but for grappling. Really beautiful work here. Now, I know the initial response, and I always say this, is like people who do combat sports are going to be like, yeah, show me it in the ring. Number one, these takedowns are highly effective in the ring. You know, you look at Shuai Zhao, I think there's a lot of overlap between these takedowns and what you see in Shuai Zhao, Qin Na, and just the kind of approach to how it's taught is a little different when you look at Bagua. It's just so fluid. But that was a fireman carry. These are just throws that you find in any real grappling system, except here it's all done through this circular soft movement that generates a different kind of force. Now, I've wrestled. I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I trained in Sambo. I've never really felt the kind of soft force outside of Sistema that I felt in Bagua. When Randall used to hit me or throw me, it was like his whole body was kind of like a wave until the final moment where it became concrete. So it was like a wave transforming into concrete. Imagine like, you know, those liquids that just harden. It was like that. It was like the liquid hits you, it wraps you, and then it hardens at the last moment. And that generates an immense amount of force, like a crushing force. Whether it was a strike or a takedown, it made it far more explosive. And you can see the way they're training here is incredibly relaxed, incredibly calm, and he's relying on the energy of the person who's attacking him. Again, I just find this very beautiful. I think it's a shame that these things are not more appreciated, that these styles are not more appreciated. I think there's a lot to offer here. Even if you're a combat sports athlete, this will change the way you train. I said this about Sistema too. There's a lot of overlap, I find, between this and Sistema in many ways. This is a little bit more classic, if that's a word I would use here, for its takedowns. You can visually understand them more than Sistema, but this is kind of like the in-between of Sistema and what I would consider actual wrestling, actual striking. It's just a little bit more foundational and clear in what it's trying to do. And, you know, I like that middle ground. If I could find a good Bagua school where they were actually teaching the fighting aspects, which I did have with Randall, the Indonesian approach, I would gladly train it because I think it has tremendous value. Let's keep looking at some of these other
history. There have been many fighting styles created for warfare, sport, fitness, and much more. One of these is Bagua Zhang. Bagua Zhang, also known as 8 trigram palm, is an internal martial art rich with history. Developed in the late 19th century, Bagua Zhang combines extensive knowledge of martial arts with Taoist philosophy and principles. The name Bagua Zhang comes from the Bagua, a Taoist symbol representing 8 different trigrams. One of the distinctive characteristics of Bagua Zhang is its circular and evasive footwork.
Exactly what we were just talking about. Now, Kevin Lee is pretty awesome. He went out and he goes and explores all these systems. I hope to find a Bagua person I can train with so that you guys can see what it's like when they hit me. I'll take that hit for everyone on this channel. That's the sacrifice I'm willing to make. But I'm telling you, you really feel it. And again, it's fascinating to feel different forms of power generation in martial arts. One of my goals while I'm here is to figure out the Sistema punch. And I feel like Bagua is kind of like a road of entry to that because I just can't understand it. I can't generate it myself. I haven't been able to do it yet. Everyone has their own explanation, but I'll be visiting Vladimir this week, Vladimir Vasiliev, and hopefully he can break it down in a way that we can all understand it. But Bagua is very similar for me in that sense when you feel it in person. So what do I think is the best aspects of this martial art? Number one, I think the footwork is incredibly unique to itself. And I think that if you can find a system that has footwork that will make you move differently, do it because it's very rare. I always talk about how great that footwork in boxing is. Footwork in Bagua is incredibly unique and designed to get you behind the person. And if you actually think of it, this circular footwork rotating on a singular point, where would that come in most handy? Would come in most handy when you're being attacked by multiple people. People don't realize that when you're able to turn so perfectly and keep fighting on a singular point, you're covering all angles of people coming at you. And I think that's part of what Bagua is trying to do. I think Bagua is always approaching its fighting with the idea that you may have to fight multiple people. Let's just look at this video right here. Look at the force generation. Coil, explode, freeze. Coil, explode, freeze. And obviously here they're modernizing it. They're changing it. They're making it their own. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with taking something that's, you know, ancient by our standards and modernizing it and making it a little bit different. But again, these are good combative movements. This is the overlap I was talking about in your system. And you can find that in a lot of traditional martial arts. Let's look at this one right here. This is a beautiful, beautiful form. And this, see, now we're going back to the traditional, and let's look at how it kind of really captures the power generation and movement I was talking about. It's just beautiful to watch. Even just for my own health, my own body as I age, I think this is super useful. Now, what you'll see is like those waving movements. Like, look at how he'll wave his body at the end of a, there you have it. See it? He'll wave his body at the end of a movement. And there, this is exactly the kind of thing Conor McGregor did to generate a lot of power. And Conor McGregor, hate him or love him, on his way up in the UFC, was a force to be reckoned with and had beautiful, beautiful movement. But this relaxation, whipping, waving kind of energy was what he relied on completely. Shoulders relaxed, body relaxed, and let your body move the arm. And you see how it tightens at the last second every time in the form? That right at the last second, it tightens. This is an incredible way to generate force and power. And by the way, if you think this doesn't help you from a longevity standpoint, you're sorely mistaken. And if your only purpose in martial arts is to be like, I'm going to be tough and burn out in my 20s, and by the time I'm 30, I don't care if I can walk anymore, then go ahead and do that. I had that mindset. I regret it tremendously. I think it's far better to train in a way, even if you're young and hot-headed, that allows you to train into your 60s, into your 70s, into your 80s. I wish that was more common back when I was young. And I think that it's just something super important to talk about that a lot of martial artists don't. So it's nice to see a style like Bagua, which I think gives you the best of both internal and external. Let's move on to the next video here. I wanted to show you beautiful form there. And here we're going to have a demonstration of Bagua for multiple people. He's moving almost like a snake. I think it reminds me of a snake. Now, I've talked about this a lot. Okay, so this looks like Sistema to me. That looks exactly like Sistema. But if you look at, like, I say this as an interesting aspect of the universe. When you extend your arm away from your body to hit somebody, to hurt somebody, you open yourself back up to being hit yourself. It's just how the world works. Now I can mitigate it. I can hide behind my shoulder. I can tuck my chin. I can retract my arm as fast as possible. But no matter what, when there's extension, there will be openings. If you look at how Bagua moves, there. And I do this with the machete. You ever notice me moving with a machete? You can see one of my previous videos. The machete wraps my body. You know, in Silat, they call it washing the blade, washing the body, right? With the blade, you wash your body with it. Bagua is doing that with its arms, with your own limbs. Because the second you remove your arms and you extend yourself, you leave yourself open. Bagua is a style where everything stays tight. It's always wrapping itself. It's always coiling on itself until that final moment where, boom, it opens and it generates immense force. But if you look at that moment, it right away comes back to circular wrapping, all that kind of stuff. So it's very, very interesting. There's this video here, which is fantastic, which is Bagua guys sparring. Now, it's important, in my opinion, that in your style you spar. If you don't, you'll never know if it works if your goal is combatives. Now, what do we notice here that's different from a lot of other styles? We notice that they're walking again. They're using the Bagua footwork. He's crossing his legs, something you're told not to do in most martial arts. You're also noticing that they're willing to spin a lot. Now, it looks a little bit messy, but this simulates a real fight. And notice how they're never staying still. They're never moving linear. They're moving circular. The entire fight happens with incredible circular. There's a point in the ground. They're both walking around it. They're both walking on the circumference of that circle. I don't even know if that makes any sense in English, circumference of that circle. And as I said previously, it's a grappling style. And what you're noticing is they're getting into a grappling exchange. So just very interesting to see it applied in a fully resisting setting where we can actually see people fighting with the style they use, which is one of my favorite things. I hate when I see someone who does Kempo and then they get in a ring and they fight like a kickboxer, or someone who does Wing Chun and they get in a ring and they start using Muay Thai. Like, if you do Wing Chun, you should fight with Wing Chun and make it work, because you can. Same thing for Kempo, same thing for Bagua. So what are they doing? They're relying on the principles of Bagua right off the bat, especially got the white with the black pants. He's never staying put. And if you look, it's creating a very hard time for the guy to hit him. Even just in my own sparring, like, I've never done that step. I just like don't feel comfortable sidewalking like that. But look, it's very hard for the guy to counter. I may try it and see if I can incorporate it, because it's like he's taking such large movements that you can't track him. You can't turn fast enough. He's walking around so quick. And then he just decides when he wants to strike and then keeps walking around. Decides when he wants to strike. Look, he's going to wait for an opportunity. He's going to attack. It'll turn into either a grappling exchange, which it did. Takes the guy down. Exactly what I just said. Took the guy down. He's literally just walking around in a vicious circle, waiting for that one moment to take the guy out, and then does it. You do this to the average person on the street, you think they're going to be able to counter you? You think they've ever experienced something like that before? I don't think so. Anyway, I hope you guys like this. It was just to showcase Bagua, which I think is one of the most unique martial arts in the world. It's just something I'm going to look for. I hope there's a Bagua school in Toronto. If anyone knows of one in Toronto or surrounding Toronto area, greater Toronto area, as they say, hit me up in the comment section below or send me a DM on Instagram, because I would love to go check it out. I would love to put some stuff into practice and see if it's as good as I remember it, because I trained 20 years ago. It's been forever. So like and subscribe. Check out the collagen, please, guys. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave your thoughts below. Thank you so much. Would you train Bagua? Yes or no?